What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Today with Kelly. How you doing today, Kelly?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm not too bad, especially because I got my favorite audience member here with me today because it's a chance encounter. And what do we do on chance encounters? We interview commercial real estate investors. Part of the reason for that is because we have to. There's a legal compliance thing, but the bigger thing is like, how are you going to do business unless you get to know people? We really need to know some things more than others. What I do is I go through the 5 different main motivations I've found commercial investors have for making their next acquisition, and then I go through the 6 different roles in the Dan Does Deals commercial roll die to find out what the core competency of my guest is. You can actually go to dandoesdeals.com and print out your own one because I really want you to be able to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. And I want you to understand where my guest fits in the big scheme of things. So before we get too excited, Kelly, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Iannone. I am excited to be here. I am a multifamily syndicator focused on helping high income professionals generate passive income through multifamily syndications. In addition to being a multifamily syndicator, I'm also a 17-year cast member at the Walt Disney Company, and I've got a corporate background in sales, finance, marketing, and strategy work that I use and apply to my multifamily syndications.
All right, that's beautiful. So I always start off on the motivation piece because sometimes I interview people who are new to this whole game and they know why they're doing it. They just don't know what they're planning to do. And now that it's actually on my screen properly, I can continue. So, the 5 different motivations that commercial investors tend to have. The first one is preserving purchasing power. So, if you already rely on the cash flow, in other words, the revenue, the money, the profit from your assets to make ends meet, then the reason you're going to make more acquisitions is because inflation is wearing away at that nest egg. So, if you're making acquisitions to stave off inflation, this is you. That is not my highest priority right now. My highest priority right now is treating time directly for wealth instead of for salary or wages. The reason for that is because I've got a background in technology. I used to work for a CRM company. And so I realized that, hey, wait a second. If I work real hard at that, I'm giving away half of everything I get. And if I pivot to something where I'm getting equity in return for my time and effort, then I am in a better tax situation. So that's what I'm up to. But the most frequently chosen answer for why they're doing this is because people want to take control of their time. Maybe they want to fast track retirement. I like to point out that if you don't have one foot at least in real estate, you might not even be leaving the door open for retirement if inflation goes really crazy. But when it comes to fast tracking retirement, maybe it means you want to quit sooner than later, like in your 50s or whatever it is. But it might just mean that you want to work fewer months per year, or fewer weeks per month, or fewer hours per week. Regardless, that's taking control of your time to do something other than hustle. And that's in contrast to the next two, especially this next one, which is for super duper ambitious people. They're looking for generational wealth. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. They're into that whole generational wealth idea. And that's what they're up to. They're great to stick around because they'll be hustling into their 90s. But the last reason why people tend to want to make another acquisition is they found some sector of society, or maybe it's the environment, or maybe it's animals, or maybe they want to send people to the moon or Mars or whatever. But they're trying to save the world or something, and they figured out that your financial situation is definitely the best vehicle to make a bigger impact. And so that's why people end up making more commercial acquisitions for that motivation. So, out of those 5 motivations, Kelly, what combination of them resonates with you, or describes you best?
Well, my primary would definitely be fast tracking retirement, or as I like to call, becoming work optional. Retirement looks different for everybody. So that is definitely my primary. My secondary is impacting my communities or the communities that our properties are in, and the lives of the residents of those particular properties.
All right, beautiful. So let's move on to the core competencies then. Again, I like to go through these in every single episode just to make sure that you know all the pieces of the puzzle and you know what the teams look like. And I do not ask for your email address, which is a really stupid idea from a marketing perspective. It's totally free to get your copy of the die. It's actually a prettier one than this one on the site. It's just I've been too lazy to upgrade this one. But let's go through all the different pieces, all the different roles. First role is the repositioner role. They're an acquisition person. So they're looking at a bunch of different properties, a bunch of different paperwork. And what are they doing with that paperwork? Well, the first thing they're doing, it's a fancy word, they call it underwriting. And it means doing the math. Since they're the acquisitions people, they need to make sure that the seller is telling the truth, that the property is actually making what they say it is, but they're also looking for ways to make more money from the property than it is right now. And that's what the repositioning side of the repositioner is. They're finding ways to change it around so it makes more money. So the main tools that people, the repositioners, have in their tool belts to make more money. First one is to reduce the costs by optimizing your operations, making it so less money goes down the drain or the toilet in this case. But there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and keeping hallways clear, moving trash, all that sort of stuff. There's also the marketing side, which is to make sure that the vacancy rate stays low. Marketing is one of my fortes. And then there's also things like bookkeeping and whatnot. But these days, real estate's so hot that operations is probably not going to be enough for the repositioner. So often they will have to include a contractor team as well. So they renovate the place, they do a value add, they make it nicer, and then that way they can charge more in rent. But if the repositioner is from the internet like me, they're going to need a local. They're going to need somebody nearby who can be there in an hour or two. That's definitely not going to be me. And all of these people in a row, they seem to be the owners, according to, say, a tenant, for example. But of course, it's not that simple. You also need the financiers involved. You need the fund managers. You need the banks. You need those types of money and paper handling people. And for the financiers to be on board and to give you a loan to pick up the property, or the repositioner in this case, they're going to be asking for one other person's identity, and that is the sponsor or KP. Sometimes when you take a coaching program, they might gloss over the fact that you need a sponsor or KP. But the way it works is if you want to be eligible for the loan, somebody has to own a similar asset. So if you want a 150 unit or a 350 unit apartment complex, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset in order for you to be eligible for the loan. But you also need a certain amount of liquidity. And then you also need to have a balance sheet among the GP team that's at least the amount of the loan or more. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Kelly, what is your core competency, or what would you be most likely to contribute to your next deal?
Well, with my broad corporate background, I can straddle many of the roles, but I find that I most easily fit on my current team as a repositioner, as well as on the financier side. So a lot of overlooking the underwriting, poking holes, asking questions, digging deep in it. And then on the financier side, looking at investor relations, helping educate consumers or potential investors on the process, as well as the ins and outs, the pros and cons of investing in a syndication.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. So my next question then would be, what makes a perfect property for you? And when commercial investors are asking for a buy box, ideal property, what they're really asking for is there's three different parts. The first one's the geography. Where is it? Okay, what state, possibly what county, possibly what neighborhood? Okay, that's going to be essential to what makes a perfect property. The second one is going to be the unit count. Okay, we're talking about commercial real estate, so that means multifamily, it means self-storage, it means retail, all of those different types. They have unit counts. If it's industrial or warehousing, you're going to go off of square footage. But that's number two. And then the third one, I like to say that there's three and a half things, because the third one is class, but they use the word class for two completely separate things. One of them is the condition of the building itself. So is it a dive or is it immaculate? Okay. And the way that they rate that is if it's bad, it's just like in grade school, like C minus, D, B plus, all that sort of stuff, all up to A. The other meaning of class is the neighborhood that the property is in. So how close is it to nice schools? What kind of crime rate is it? All those sorts of things. So Kelly, as far as the property that's easier to say yes to, it's more difficult to say no to. What you got?
Well, we're definitely looking at properties in the Sun Belt. So a lot of Florida, Georgia, Texas areas. Looking at 100 to 200 units. We are focused on multifamily, so apartment complexes. And then as far as class, we're looking at B class areas, traditionally C, B class properties that we can really get into that solid B box.
All right, beautiful. And the other thing that I want to mention about commercial in general, which I love, is that because it's multifaceted, it's, some people, like, especially if they're remote based, you have to understand the entire die. But like what
Mhm.
you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be more focused once you get to a bigger deal. But we're all better at helping some people than others. Me personally, because of my mass marketing background and optimizing systems, automation, all that sort of stuff, I'm better suited to help sponsors and KPs. But without breaking any SEC restrictions, who can you help better than anybody else in commercial real estate get ahead?
Yeah, I'm going to go rogue and go off your die. I am great at helping the people, if you will. I
Mhm.
love to help educate and share the knowledge of what we're doing, kind of bringing that country club conversation into Main Street. You could say that that's helping the sponsors or helping the teams as we put deals together, but that's definitely where I'm focused and spending a lot of time.
Okay, so we're saying people who are getting into it a little bit more than people who are intermediate or already established or something like that. That's
Correct. Yep. A lot of sharing knowledge and information. And then I guess the one thing I would add too is potential if somebody's looking for somebody that's local. I am based here in Central Florida. So if you've got a property here in the Central Florida area and you need a local person, I am around.
all right, sweet. And as far as the ways to get a hold of you, I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. Is there a website that's better, or is LinkedIn good, or how should people reach out to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. That's definitely where I spend most of my time as well. My last name, well, you'll put it in the comments, Iannone. But I do also feel free to check out my website, waypointcip.com. And that's Waypoint for CIP for commercial investment partners.com.
All right, beautiful. And I only have one thing left. Is actually for you in the audience there, which is if you look under my left hand, you'll see red like anger. Okay, if it's a phone, you'll see the word subscribe in red, and it's and if you're on a desktop, it's this big ugly red button, and you gotta get rid of the red button. It's so bad, and the only way to get rid of it is you click on it, and it turns gray. And it's amazing because it means that YouTube pays for these videos instead of me. Isn't that better? And it costs you absolutely nothing. All it means is that these videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you don't even have to pay attention to those because you've already done me an enormous favor by watching and hitting the subscribe button. Just like Kelly, you've done me an enormous favor by joining me today. This has been fantastic getting to know you better.
This has been awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
506 baby, everyone.
Oh,
Get in this code.
oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm on 506 Beamy. Okay, so how do I just open up my QR code and then I just scan it?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what?
And then you do the instructions.
Oh, I just log in right here.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's your video right here. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is enough for compliance, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So this proves that I know who you are and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. I think everybody should 506 B me.
Or you.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll see you around.